Okay, I call this School Board Administrative Informal and Workshop Session to order at 4:05 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please announce the roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Present in the school board chamber are Chair Brown, Vice Chair Weems, Mr. Bowensteel, Mr. Callen, Mr. Cummings, Ms. Dwyer, Ms. Felton, Dr. Green, and Ms. Rogers.
Thank you. We are on to School Board Administrative Matters and Reports. I do have one report, but before that, I'm going to pass the sign-up sheets for September 1-to-1 meetings and school visits with the superintendent. I'm going to start here to my right. Do any board members have anything to report? Ms. Rogers. And then Vice Chair Weems.
So sorry, I just wanted to report that I was at this summer's DTAL conference, which was amazing, and I want to thank the staff for all their work on that, as well as new teacher orientation. I love welcoming our new teachers, and I'm excited for the school year.
Vice Chair Weems.
Yes, I was just going to say the same. Welcome to all of our new teachers. We got to meet a lot of them yesterday, and they're busy and different workshops and welcoming fun stuff, and you can just tell they're so excited. And we've got how many new ones? We're 400. Yeah, we're 400. So welcome, new teachers. Y'all gonna be awesome. Thank you.
I also express those same sentiments, and I apologize that I was unable to, but I also appreciate Vice Chair Weems speaking as my designee as Vice Chair for opening that. I also want to share that I was selected for Cohort 2 of the Virginia Hunt State Policy Fellows Program, and I did attend that in Chantilly over these last couple of days. We discussed the performance framework, and I want to let my colleagues know that the VDOE is going to be taking up the naming of the sections in 2 weeks. There'll be a vote on that. I also have a timeline that I can provide to you on when they're going to be voting on the other pieces of that, so I'll send that to you. I have a picture of it. I don't have the actual document, so I'll send that off to you guys. It's a bipartisan network of leaders across the Commonwealth to explore critical policy considerations in early childhood development and education, early brain development, and K through 12 education systems. And so anyway, if anyone has any questions about that, I'm happy to answer that. Mr. Bowensteel.
Yes, the GRC held their foundation retreat last week, and I was there in attendance, and just wanted to comment on all the wonderful work they do. I mean, it's just amazing. They just keep pressing on and on and on, and it's like they're already, I mean, everybody does a great job, I know, but they're already at the top, and they're just sitting there thinking of ways that they can even be better and keep the graduation rate at 100%, and just all they do. I just wanted to make a comment on that.
Dr. Green.
Thank you. I also wanted to announce that I have been selected by the National School Board Association to serve in its first Policy Institute. And the track that I will be on will make Dr. Ronnie Miles-Darb happy, because it will be focusing on policies as it relates to leadership, and I will be in a cohort with other school board members from throughout the United States. So my first class, I'm back in class too, is on Monday.
Thank you. We are now going to move on to our summer staffing and recruitment update, and we welcome Dr. Darnita Trotman, Chief Human Resources Officer.
Hello, good afternoon. Chair Brown, Vice Chair Weems, members of the school board, and Dr. Robertson. We are pleased to provide you all with a summer update on staffing and recruitment efforts for the 2026-2027 school year. Staffing our schools is one of HR's highest priorities because behind every vacancy, there's a classroom, program, or service that directly impacts students. Today, you will hear from three members of the Human Resources Leadership Team, Mrs. Amy Church, Director of Employment Services. She will begin with our workforce outlook and staffing data. Following Mrs. Church will be Dr. James Avila, our coordinator of recruitment and retention, and he will share strategies we are using to recruit and retain employees. And last but not least, you will hear from Miss Kelly Knight, our marketing specialist, who will conclude with how we are expanding awareness of employment opportunities through strategic marketing. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Church.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Trotman. Our presentation will focus on 5 key areas: the current teacher workforce outlook, where Virginia Beach City Public Schools stands today with staffing, our recruitment and retention efforts, recent marketing initiatives to strengthen our talent pipeline, thank you, and ways prospective employees can connect with our division. Together, these strategies reflect our commitment to building and sustaining a high-quality workforce so that every school is staffed with exceptional employees who are prepared to support the success of every student. Our work is grounded in Compass to 2030, specifically Goal 3, which calls upon us to value and invest in our employees. Every hiring decision, recruitment initiative, retention strategy, and marketing effort highlighted today is intentionally aligned with this goal. Together, these efforts strengthen our ability to attract exceptional talent, invest in our employees, and ensure every school is staffed with highly qualified professionals who are prepared to support the success of every student. Before discussing Virginia Beach specifically, it is helpful to understand the broader workforce landscape. We will begin nationally, move to Virginia's teacher pipeline, and then examine the regional labor market that directly affects our ability to recruit educators. According to the Virginia Department of Education's Education Workforce Data and Reports, 10 endorsement areas have been identified as statewide critical shortage areas for the 2026-2027 school year. Special education and elementary education continue to rank as Virginia's 2 greatest areas of need, followed by science, middle education grades, career and technical education, and several other high-demand endorsement areas. As we move into Virginia Beach staffing data, you will see that our largest instructional vacancies closely mirror these statewide shortage areas. The U.S. Department of Education's Title II report, released in 2025, provided statewide educator preparation data for the 2023-2024 academic year. Virginia's teacher pipeline continues to narrow. More than 8,800 individuals enrolled in teacher preparation programs across Virginia, yet only 2,700 completed their programs and became eligible for licensure. Spread across Virginia's 134 school divisions, that averages approximately 20 newly licensed teachers per division, and there is no guarantee those candidates will choose Virginia Beach. This is why recruiting new educators remains important, but retaining the exceptional educators we already employ is equally essential. National research helps explain the broader workforce environment, but we also closely monitor the regional labor market. Using the published 2026-2027 salary schedules from the 7 Hampton Roads school divisions, this comparison shows that Virginia Beach increased its entry-level teacher salary by nearly 4%, moving from 7th to 5th among neighboring divisions. While we remain approximately $3,500 below the region's highest starting salary, This represents meaningful progress and reflects the school board's continued investment in remaining competitive within our local market. We would like to thank you, the school board, for its continued investment in our employees. Based on the division's approved 2026-2027 compensation plan, instructional employees received an average salary increase of 5.23%, while employees on the Unified Experience-Based Pay Scale received an average increase of 4.17%. National research consistently shows that competitive compensation supports both recruitment and retention, and we appreciate the board's commitment to our workforce. We will now transition the focus from national and surrounding school divisions to the workforce of Virginia Beach. Unless otherwise noted, the staffing information presented throughout this section comes from the VBCPS Weekly Staffing Review and Human Resources Staffing Dashboard as of August 5th, 2026. As of August 5th, Virginia Beach had 95 instructional vacancies, including 83 classroom teacher vacancies. Elementary schools continue to represent our greatest area of need, accounting for more than half of our instructional vacancies. Although hiring continues daily, these figures help us prioritize our efforts. Special education remains our highest instructional staffing priority. As of August 5th, there were 28 special education teacher vacancies across the division. Since then, that number has decreased to 24 vacancies, including 14 elementary, 7 middle, and 3 high school positions. Of these 24 vacancies, 14 are general curriculum positions, while 10 are within early childhood special education and adapted curriculum. This continues to reflect the statewide critical shortage identified by the Virginia Department of Education. This slide provides a comparison of instructional vacancies reported during the first week of August for the 2025-2026 and 2026-2027 school years. As of August 5th, we are reporting 95 full-time instructional vacancies, compared with 49 vacancies at the same point last year. An important distinction is that special education vacancies were reported separately in the 2025-2026 data and were not included in the vacancy total. For 2026-2027, special education vacancies are included in the overall instructional vacancy count, providing a more comprehensive picture of current staffing needs. Because of this difference in reporting, the two totals are not a direct year-over-year comparison. Excluding the current special education vacancies, the remaining instructional vacancies for 2026-2027 totals 67, compared with 49 reported at the same time last year. This slide demonstrates the direct alignment between statewide shortages and our local staffing needs. Virginia's top 2 shortage endorsement areas, special education and elementary education, are also Virginia Beach's largest instructional vacancy areas. Because these shortages exist across the Commonwealth, we have intentionally focused our recruitment strategies on these positions. Beyond instructional positions, the division currently has 77 school-based non-instructional vacancies, including 71 full-time and 6 part-time positions. These positions are essential to maintaining safe, efficient, and supportive school operations. This slide compares school-based non-instructional vacancies reported during the first week of August. An important distinction is that custodian vacancies were not included in the 2025-2026 school-based data totals. Beginning in 2026-2027, custodial positions are included in this data, and currently 27 of the 71 vacancies are custodial positions. Excluding custodial positions for a more comparable year-over-year view, the division currently has 44 non-instructional vacancies compared with 55 vacancies at the same point last year. Other key school support vacancies in this data include 20 special education assistants and 9 security assistants. 3 positions continue to require significant recruitment attention: bus drivers, bus assistants, and cafeteria assistants. These positions compete directly with the private sector labor market, which is why our Wheels and Meals and school support staff hiring events specifically target recruitment efforts in these career areas. This slide highlights hard-to-fill vacancy trends for bus drivers, bus assistants, and cafeteria assistants reported during the first week of August. Compared with the same time last year, bus driver vacancies increased slightly, with the current total including driver trainees who are actively completing the training process. Bus assistant vacancies remain a priority area for recruitment. Cafeteria assistant vacancies decreased significantly, with several candidate recommendations currently in process for the start of the new school year. This data reflects the positive impact of targeted recruitment efforts, including our Summer Wheels and Meals event, and we continue to partner closely with the Office of Transportation and the Office of Food Services to support hiring, strengthen recruitment efforts, and address ongoing staffing needs in these critical support areas. While these vacancy numbers present challenges, they also demonstrate where our recruitment efforts must remain focused. Dr. James Avila will now share the intentional strategies Human Resources is implementing to attract and retain outstanding employees.
Thank you, Mrs. Church. Our recruitment strategy is built around 4 major areas: growing our own talent, hosting signature recruitment events, expanding alternative licensure pathways, and strengthening partnerships throughout the community. Based on our recruitment efforts for the 25-26 school year, student, teacher, and intern receptions resulted in 77 hires. Our annual Educator Hiring Expo generated nearly 600 registrations, screened 85 licensed candidates, and resulted in 50 teacher hires, including 7 special education teachers. These are only 2 examples of recruitment efforts that occur throughout the year. One of the most sustainable strategies for strengthening our staffing pipeline is growing our own teachers right here in Virginia Beach. The Virginia Teachers for Tomorrow, VTFT program, offered in each of our high schools, provides students with exposure to the teaching profession through classroom learning and hands-on field experiences. This year, 10 VTFT cadets returned to VBCPS as new teachers and were showcased at our Career Connections event in March. VBCPS also partners with colleges and universities to support our paraprofessionals interested in becoming elementary or special education teachers. These partnerships, combined with available state grant funding, provide pathways and financial support for current teacher assistants to transition into licensed teachers. iTeach, a state-supported initiative, continues to serve as another important pathway. The program provides individuals with bachelor's degrees an alternate route to teacher licensure. In both the current and previous school years, iTeach candidates have been hired to fill critical instructional vacancies. Every strategy highlighted here is either bringing talented employees into VBCPS or supporting them so that they choose to stay. As reported previously, teacher assistants are participating in university partnerships, allowing them to earn their teacher license while they work. VBCPS provided a student teacher incentive to 30 student teachers last year, and we've already hired 77 this school year. The division also supported professional learning for eligible employees with financial assistance through EPDR, the Employment Professional Development Reimbursement. HR continues to pursue grants and supplemental funding to help employees offset the costs of licensure assessments and coursework. Our efforts to foster a positive and supportive workplace extends to our tuition-free program for non-resident employees. Last year, more than 100 employees benefited from the tuition-free program. Community partnerships further support employees and their families by expanding access to before and after school care, staff workday programs, and summer programming, providing more than 165 childcare opportunities. Partners also offer discounted family memberships and programs that support students' academic and leadership development. Taken together, these recruitment and retention strategies help sustain the school division's 90.8% employee retention rate. We would like again to thank the school board for investing in our employees. Every eligible employee received up to $1,500 retention bonus on June 30th. This investment reinforces Goal 3 of Compass to 2030 by helping employees feel valued, recognized, and invested in as professionals. I'll now turn the presentation over to Ms. Kelly Knight to highlight how our marketing efforts support recruitment.
Thank you, Dr. Avila. Last August, I closed my update by talking about telling our story and growing our VBCPS team. Today, I want to pick that conversation back up and show you what a year of that work looks like. Over the next few slides, I'll show you the reach we've built, where candidates tell us they found us, and about a new regional campaign from the Hampton Roads Chamber that we were happy to sign on to. Last year, I showed you that VBCPS had the largest social following across platforms in our area. This year, I want to show you some other key figures that are indicative of the reach and the work of the division that the division has done to increase awareness of who we are and what we do. Our website drew just over 1 million users this year, and about 131,500 of them, roughly 13%, made their way specifically to our careers landing page. The careers page was viewed over 468,000 times, accounting for about 13% of all 3.55 million views across vbschools.com. The two largest months for views of our careers page were March and May, lining up with a promotional campaign for our spring hiring expo held in March, and a Teach at the Beach campaign we ran in May and June. This indicates that when our ads were running, our careers page traffic peaked. On YouTube, our VB Schools channel had roughly 633,000 video views, and 3/4 of that came directly from our recruitment ads. Our paid ads added almost 300,000 impressions on Meta and 85,000 impressions on LinkedIn. In sum, we put our story in front of candidates well over 1 million times. Last year, we tracked traffic to our event landing pages and more recently surveyed attendees of our hiring events, asking a simple question: how did you hear about us? At our educator and school support staff hiring expo, 36% of attendees found out about our event online or through our website, and word of mouth was right behind at 21%. At our Wheels and Meals hiring event, online or website and social media were nearly tied, 36 and 33%, with word of mouth close behind. Last school year, we signed on as an advertiser with the Start in Hampton Roads, Virginia campaign, spearheaded by the Hampton Roads Chamber, which reaches families researching a move to the region. We were happy to be early adopters and the first school division to join. The magazine officially launched last month and features an ad from us and a sponsored article charting the course. Included on this slide is a QR code that will take you to the website and new digital magazine. I hope you check it out. As the 2025-26 school year came to a close, we took advantage of graduation season and built on the success of fall recruitment ads with new ones to add to the mix. And so I want to close this section the way I think it always should close, with a story. This is Teach at the Beach, one of our most viewed recruitment ads last school year. Take a look.
City Public Schools. Your experience is valued, your growth is supported, and your work is shaping futures. Apply today at vbschools.com/careers. Ready for work that makes a lasting impact? At Virginia Beach City Public Schools, your experience is valued, your growth is supported, and your work is shaping futures. Apply today at vbschools.com/careers.
All right. None of this works without all of you helping carry our message forward. You'll find VBCPS everywhere on this slide, and the code goes straight to our vbschools.com/careers. Thank you for sharing.
While staffing challenges continue across Virginia and the nation, Virginia Beach City Public Schools remains focused on recruiting exceptional talent, investing in our employees, and ensuring every student has access to highly qualified educators and staff. We appreciate your continued partnership and your investment in the employees who make our division successful. At this time, we would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Ms. Rogers?
Thanks so much. I really appreciate y'all's presentation. I know when I started here in 2017, the very first shirt that I got was from the Virginia Beach Education Association that said, "I teach at the beach" on the back, and I was so happy to wear that. And so I think Teach at the Beach is really one of those things that generates excitement. I do have a question about our retention rate. It's at 90.8%. How does that compare to other years if we have that information?
I don't have that data
Okay.
currently, but I'm sure that we can answer that question for you.
Okay, no worries. And I only ask is because 90 is good, but I am concerned, obviously, especially with the number of teachers that are not coming out of colleges, that we really do need to retain the teachers that we do have. And obviously that's a concern for you all as well. But I think part of it is us as a board working with you. Some of our decisions, I think, aren't always what our staff are happy with. And I'm just going to be blunt about it. And I think that we can better help you retain our teachers by listening to our staff more. And so I just want to just say that I really believe that we need to work in partnership with you all and ensuring that our staff that we have want to stay here based not only on the work that you're doing, but on the work that we're doing. So I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. And I can't wait to see all of our new teachers this year.
Thank you. And I will say, we will get that retention rate comparison back to you. I do want to offer that on the Video Ease website, there's a teacher vacancy dashboard. And for the state of Virginia, the vacancy rate for the 25-26 for the state of Virginia was 2.54. For Region 2, it was 4.61. And for Virginia Beach, it was 1.75%. So that partnership is greatly appreciated. And we are really working together to, of course, celebrate our wins. But as the presentation reflected, we do have focus areas that we have to continue to focus on.
I don't want to have to go back into the classroom, so I am hoping that we can do more to help you guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Cummings?
Yeah, thank you. This is just, I think, an action item for later, because I remember a year ago when you all presented, you did great work, and the board was provided with a kind of like a table or something like that had the retention rates of the 0 to 5, 5 to 7, and your experience and things like that. And so I'd love to get an update just of that grid of data, just to do quick comparisons with me for myself, as I remember the 0 to 5 year bucket probably being one of the higher areas where we had churn. And so I think that's just something that's always on the top of my head, is just, what do we do? What strategies in place? How can the board support you all in your efforts to retain our staff within that 0 to 5 or 0 to 3 bucket? And if there's, additional, resources needed or action, definitely hearing some of those things. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Vice Chair Weems?
Yes, thank you. And if you could send Dr. Trotman those numbers that you just said about the retention, because I remember, yeah, comparatively, ours was good at that 1.2 or whatever you said.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's great. And this magazine is awesome. That's really cool there. Okay, so, I mean, obviously, because the pool is smaller, retention gets bigger and bigger. So we need to make sure, is there any, I know there's no data, but is there any evidence that the bonus that we just gave in June, the $1,500 bonus? I mean, I actually talked with a teacher that said that made her stay an extra year. She was gonna retire and she decided to stay an extra year. Do we have any of that, like any evidence or about?
We don't. We did not collect any
Yeah.
data around the bonus. It was
Okay.
a retention strategy, so they had to be here beyond by 6:30 to get it. So,
Yeah.
but we don't have
Right,
any additional
okay.
data.
Okay. I know though that the teachers definitely appreciated that. Okay, with special education, so with our teacher assistants in special education, is there still, or am I thinking of iTeach? But I think I'm thinking of another program where a regular ed teacher could go and take a few classes to get their provisional license to teach special education through Old Dominion. What is that program called? Try it.
It was.
Try it. Do we still have that?
Try it.
Do we still have that?
Dr. Myers stopped
Okay, yes,
saying
that
no.
would be,
She's right.
because I actually took those classes from C.J. Butler, the best professor in the whole world for special. He was
agree
great.
with you on that one. It has really decreased over the last several years, and we only had a handful in the program last year, and it was geared towards ECSC and the adapted curriculum certification. But iTeach has really,
Okay.
people have shifted over to that because it is considerably less of a cost
Okay.
for the teachers.
Now for our special education assistants, what is, because obviously that is a huge gap. So how can we encourage, or I'm assuming we want to encourage those TAs to become teachers? So what's the best way and what are we doing with that? What's the quickest, most efficient, less expensive? And so how are we gonna make that happen? Because I think that's an area that we need to really concentrate on.
So that is where we emphasize our partnerships with funding sources with our colleges and universities. We do have cohorts. We have current cohorts active. On one of your data slides, it does show that we have apprentices and fellows,
Right.
and those specifically focus on special education and elementary education, our two highest areas. And then also, we have revised our regulation for academic leave, which in certain circumstances and in these very critical need areas like special education, a student teacher who's a current employee, a special education assistant, or another teacher assistant can apply so that their academic leave is paid. And so that is an incentive as well to go into these critical shortage areas, and they are current teacher assistants, and it is allowing them to have that support of funding and also keep their benefits and be able to move into an actual certified teaching program.
Okay, that's great.
And might I add that we are along the same lines, Mrs. Weems, and so together with PIA, a survey was developed and went out to teacher assistants to actually gain their interest on who might be ready and their thought process, because we want to continue the pathways internally. So we do have that data, and so we have ideas, and we will be working with that data because we heard directly from the teacher assistants.
Okay, yes, that's perfect, because we've got some awesome TAs out there who are doing a great, phenomenal job, and we just got to make sure that they can keep going at the level that they want to be and that we want to.
Yes, ma'am.
Be. Thank you so much.
Dr. Green?
Thank you. Dr. Trotman, first, I would like to thank, I think it's Miss Knight for the marketing piece. Is that who gets credit for that piece? Very good job, Miss Knight. So thank you. So my second question, Dr. Trotman, you may have to answer. I would assume now on the application, as you get applicants, is there a place to say, how did you hear about us? So you're able to track how well the marketing piece is coming. Are you able to sync the data? How many employees? Okay, you're ready to answer. Okay,
Yeah. So new applicants, yes, we can fully track.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, great job.
So I was just curious how the interstate teacher mobility compact might assist with some of our recruitment efforts. Is that something you might be able to speak to? Because I know you mentioned Virginia data, but I know that that's a new piece that we have that's coming into play, so.
We are working closely with the Department of Education Licensure Office. We actually communicate with them weekly for updates on how it will impact our applicants. And we are exploring, as Dr. Robertson would know because they come across his desk, but we are exploring all alternate pathways to licensure that the VDOE is offering. So we are not leaving any stone overturned. We are exploring every avenue available to us to ensure that we have qualified teachers before our students, especially in those critical need areas. So that is where we are emphasizing our efforts.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question is about food service workers and custodians. I didn't see a slide for that. Maybe I missed it here, but can you speak to how we are in those areas? Because I know when I came on the board, there was about 80-ish vacancies in each of those positions.
So there is a slide, and I think Dr. Trotman's looking for the number.
Okay.
So specifically for our cafeteria assistants, it's slide 16.
Right.
And food services, the Office of Food Services, working alongside with our staffing specialists, they have done a phenomenal job. They are very diligent. They're actually been meeting weekly to discuss recruitment efforts and hiring strategies. And I do believe that number is lower than it has been in a number of years. We do have recommendations still in progress, but we are 100% positive that the cafeteria assistants, bakers and cooks, and managers will be in place. All those that have been recommended will be ready to start prior to the students arriving. Our Wheels and Meals event was a big contributor to our recent recommendations. And then also as far as custodians, we have shifted the way they're being reported, and that is specifically because the vacancies are listed by specific school. And so we are able to report each school's custodial vacancies, and the numbers have decreased. At this point, we provided that there are 21 custodian 1 vacancies, and then we also have currently 8 head custodial vacancy positions in our schools. And we are working with the Office of Custodial Services to ensure that those recommendations are received and processed.
So the vacancies are less than half of what they were then a few years ago, which is really great news. But
Well, Chair, if I can add on to that, because with custodians, that's not quite true.
Oh.
So as you recall, the last couple of years, with budget reductions, we have looked at historical data for custodial vacancies and the custodial vacancy market to hire people, and we have eliminated positions So we've probably eliminated 50 custodial positions over the last 2 years because we were never able to hire them. So why continue to budget for them when we can't hire them? We also used the industry standard model for how to staff a custodian by a building. So our ratio that we were using prior to this year was a ratio that was much lower, which would mean a school would get more custodians. So when we looked at the industry model, we adjusted that ratio, which did in some cases reduce the number of custodians that would be assigned to a building to match the industry standard. And so even though we still have roughly 20 custodial vacancies, if you factor in that 2 years ago we were about 80, but we eliminated 50 positions, we're still about where we were with custodians. Not the same circumstance with food services though.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to preface my next question and my comments of saying, we're always going to have work to do on, compensation and continuing to increase compensation and, try our best to make sure that we're giving compensation that values, the employees that come to work every day and really make everything work for our students. But I did just want to comment, in 23, our teacher starting pay was $51,966, and it is up to $57,801, correct? That is 11.23% increase. But what was interesting to me as I was looking at the presentation is we really hunkered down on the starting teacher pay salary and where we stand with that. But I also know that previously we were number 2 in the region for our more experienced educators. And so we're talking about retaining educators. Where do we stand for our 5, 10, 15, 20-year experienced educators? And can we get a chart for that as well?
Yes, absolutely you can. So I'll have that noted to get that with you when we submit all of the other data to you. Absolutely.
Thank you. Because I think when I add it up, it's about 31% average pay increase over the last 5 years. So, we, not to diminish the needs to continue the work, but we do value all of the employees that work for our division every single day, and we are continuing to invest in that and make reductions where we can so that we can make sure that they're getting the compensation they deserve. Absolutely. All right, Vice Chair Weems.
Yes, I was going to ask for that chart as well. So with retention, I know yesterday, I think it was asked with all our new teachers, how many teachers are coming from other school divisions, and tons of teachers stood up. So do we have any data, like how many of Virginia Beach teachers are leaving to teach in the surrounding area school divisions versus how many teachers from the area school divisions are coming in to teach here? Because I know yesterday when I was just roaming around the lunchroom, I met 3 or 4 that were from 3 or 4 different local cities that are coming here to teach, leaving. So is there any data with that?
Yes. However, it's all self-reported. So there's an exit survey when our employees exit or separate from the division. And I will tell you, we can certainly share what we have. However, I don't know if that's self-reporting because there are other categories that could be used instead of moving to another local school division. That is a category, but personal reasons is a category. So depending upon the individual and what they report, that's what we get. So I would just caution that it is self-reported. So I can't say how it's valid, but it is self-reported. Now, on the opposite end, those that are coming, we do have experience verification forms that come in from other school divisions. So we can give you, I would say with more fidelity, I could give you those numbers, but I would just use caution. But we can give you what we have.
Yeah, and I'll add, so quarterly, we send to the board
Right.
the exit report, which will include the self-reported data that Dr. Trotman is talking about. But in every personnel report, it lists the teachers we hired and whether or not they came from another division. And so you can, when those personnel reports you review every couple of weeks, you can look through there and get an idea of where the staff are coming from. And they're coming from all over the United States, including some from our local divisions. But in terms of, where are they going, our response rate on the exit survey is about 70%. So that gives you a good idea, but it is self-reported.
Right, well, I can remember, looking at those, and it seems to be very low of VPCPS employees going to one of those area ones, if, but, okay. Thank you, yeah, if we can get that, and I would just like to add with Chair Brown, it's, I think that's, the 11 of us sometimes agree and disagree on different things, but I think that is so common that when we're sitting up here, we agree that our employees need great compensation, great resources, great professional development. So I'm proud that this board has stuck together and, supported y'all into making sure, and we will continue to do that to make sure that our employees are compensated for what they deserve and are valued. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you. I don't see any additional questions, so we are going to move on to our long-range facilities master plan, and we welcome Melissa Ingram, Executive Director, Facilities Services.
Thank you. So good evening, Chair Brown, Vice Chair Weems, members of the board, and Dr. Robertson. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the long-range facility master plan today. This plan is updated every 10 years and serves as the school division's roadmap for maintaining, modernizing, and managing our facilities through a community-informed planning process. Today, we will discuss the planning process and a path forward to a 2028 adoption of a new updated long-range facility master plan. So our discussion today will include a review of the previous master plan, then information on the 4 major facilities focus areas involved with the planning process listed here, and we'll conclude with a proposed timeline and next steps toward a 2028 plan adoption. Our last long-range facility master plan was adopted in 2018. As we begin the next 10-year update, planning work in 2027 through 2028 will build on the existing plan's observations and framework with new facility assessments, updated data, and community involvement. As before, as some of you on the board may recall, who were here with us in 2017, the process will include a steering committee representing the school board, city council, staff, higher education community, and community members. The next slide may be most familiar to those who have served on the Building Utilization Committee, showing over 20 years of enrollment trends, with enrollment and building utilization being the first of facilities focus areas for this process. Over these last years and through various annual review processes, such as the long-range facility master planning process we're talking about today, our annual building utilization committee process, and work with the city annually on the Joint Modernization Committee, the school division has been able to proactively respond to changing enrollment. Closing Plaza Elementary School in 09-10, accommodating space for full-day kindergarten from 16-17 to 2021, eliminating more than 300 portable classrooms, and expanding early childhood programs and CSEP throughout the division's schools. These efforts have made use of existing space, supporting strategic facility decisions over time, including property dispositions, school consolidations, and modernization new construction efforts. These actions have allowed us to better align our facilities with enrollment and educational program needs while reducing maintenance costs. The upcoming master plan will evaluate additional opportunities using updated data and community input. So looking more closely at recent enrollment trends, we continue to see relatively stable division-wide enrollment while monitoring and managing localized growth and changing attendance zone patterns. This ongoing review helps us identify future utilization opportunities and informs long-range planning decisions, similar to those historic utilization changes we've reviewed on the previous slide, summarized and listed here, from implementation of new programs such as full-day kindergarten to the sale of property when appropriate. So the second facilities focus area for the planning process is assessing educational adequacy factors. This focuses on whether our buildings support today's instructional programs and the future needs identified in Compass to 2030. Educational programmatic needs, including special education, early childhood education, academic support needs, workforce development, and other evolving program needs to ensure our facilities continue to support student success and the goal of preparing all students to be future ready. The third facilities focus area for this planning process is assessing a facility condition index, or FCI, which evaluates the quality of our school structures, starting with the condition of every major building system, from structural to roofs and HVAC to electrical, utilities, and site infrastructure. These assessments guide our capital improvement program and help prioritize investments for capital renewal maintenance projects needed at all schools as our buildings age. Together, these factors, facility condition index and educational adequacy, look at our facility structures as a whole and have guided our modernization new construction program for many years. Most of the highest priority projects identified 2 master plans ago in 2007, 2008 have been accomplished, with us continuing work on Princess Anne High School. The school division is currently working on 3 projects from the last master plan conducted in 2017-18, Old Aragona Jericho Road being planned for disposition, Princess Anne High School under a solicitation for a replacement or renovation, and Williams Elementary School Tri-Campus being addressed with the additions project, which began construction this summer. Work on this upcoming master plan will reassess remaining facilities and establish priorities for the next decade with community input. And last but not least of our facilities focus areas, funding remains a critical part of the conversation. Our capital improvement program balances appropriations of roughly $62 million total per year between individual building systems in green, the capital renewal maintenance projects, along with new construction modernization replacement projects in the light blue. As we've discussed in previous CIP discussions, as Princess Anne High School moves forward through the progressive design build solicitation process, so does those appropriations for new construction in light blue, with a corresponding decrease in green under level funding. With this upcoming master plan, we will be able to review and discuss funding in comparison to future needs, both new construction and maintenance. This next slide shows our current projects in the CIP as part of our current long-term modernization schedule. Again, while projects such as Tri-Campus and Princess Anne High School are moving forward, this also illustrates the need for continued long-range planning, as our next school remains decades away from modernization. The updated master plan will help prioritize future investments, helping the school division be good stewards of tax dollars while addressing future needs. And as we've been discussing, our funding strategy also depends on long-term debt planning. Working with the city and our financial advisors, we've developed a framework that supports both major modernization projects and ongoing maintenance needs over the next several years. The long-range master plan will also consider this as part of a balanced funding strategy moving forward. So looking ahead at a proposed timeline, we'll be able to begin this process procuring a planning consultant in step 1 forming the steering committee in step 2, getting us to about early winter 2027, working on analysis and assessments in step 3 to community engagement in step 4, getting us to winter spring 2028. Developing recommendations and then finalizing the report in step 5. And bringing the updated long-range facility master plan to the board for adoption in 2028 in roughly the August timeframe prior to that year's budget process. Looking at immediate next steps in roughly the next 6 months, if the board concurs, we'll be able, again, to begin the process with procurement to procure a consultant, regroup with the Building Utilization Committee in September as an update from last year's work, and in November with our updated enrollment and projection numbers. Then begin with the fiscal year 28 budget process, including initial discussions on the 1% local tax referendum opportunity, establish a steering committee, and begin analysis with the consultant in winter, spring of 27. So this concludes today's update. This is the beginning of a collaborative planning process, and we'll continue providing you updates as work progresses. And I want to thank you again for your time, and at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, I have some questions.
Sure.
So we got an email earlier, and this individual was curious about how it is that we are ranking using the data that we have in the long-range facilities master plan. If I don't know why I want to call it use, but the master plan. How is it that some of them look like they're ranked in worse condition and are first up for renovation or
So
remodernization?
the ranking goes from 0 to 1 for the facility condition index, 1 being the worst condition, and for the educational adequacy, 0 to 2. We look at both factors with the modernization program, and from 17-18 to today, if they're comparing that type of data, we have had to provide additional re-roofs, additional HVAC programs. So some schools, such as First Colonial High School, just got re-roofed this last summer. So that changes, and we look at these assessments as time goes on. We've actually just worked with DOT to have a new service work order request system, which also updates these assessments as time goes on as well. Okay. So this is live data, changing data that we try to keep up to date. However, it is a 10-year-long planning process to update the data with a consultant's input and community input, most importantly.
Thank you. The other thing, I guess, is really more of a comment, not a question. And for my colleagues on the Building Utilization Committee, you know, I've been out and about quite a lot, particularly around Holland Road Elementary. And, you know, there's rumors circulating that the board has approved a closure. We have not. But I do know that there was a recommendation from the Building Utilization Committee to consider that. And I would just ask that when you guys do reconvene in September, that you consider the full picture and the long-range facility needs and enrollment, and work on that and the community input prior to taking any steps to consider a closure. And I expressed these concerns with Dr. Robertson as well. I think that it would be premature considering that we are now at the tail end of that master plan. So that wasn't really a question, it was just a statement.
Absolutely, I just notated that. We've promised the Building Utilization Committee that we convene in September with the work we've conducted, and none of that work will go wasted. You know, we would provide any of that data and work we've done to the consultant as well.
Right.
So, but thank you.
I'm not trying to overstep or overshadow the work of the buck. I am just simply advocating, and you know, my district is very, very, very upset about this, rightfully so, because, you know, they feel like in some of the other districts, they're getting a gain from a closure, but this one was just a conversation about a closure, and there's no specifics that can be offered to them. So nonetheless, I'm just going to be advocating that we hold off until we have more data and information. So thank you. Oh, Vice Chair Williams.
Yes, Ms. Ingram, on your Princess Anne High School timeline, is that seems very generous or conservative? I think the finished was like in 33 finished project. Is that?
Yes, we're estimated right now to go to 2033. We're going through the RFQ process, and then we'll be going and giving the soliciting the RFP process next in that planning
Right.
process.
And how long does it usually take, once you get all that done, how long does it usually take to actually build or rebuild or whatever, a high school?
Depending on the phasing, it could be anywhere from 3 to 5 years. So it just depends. We will have an occupied site, whether we have a swing space and go with replacement, or whether we even go with have swing space in the property and we're doing it in phases. So it really can change. But to answer your question simply, roughly 3 to 5 years.
Okay, so that's a lot longer than our other, like elementary and middle schools, just because of all the different programs and sports and all that stuff?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, because that just seemed a little bit longer out, because people are constantly asking me that in the grocery store and on the sports fields. When is Princess Anne? And then, of course, the next question is, what about Bayside? So, I mean, we all get that about our different schools, but, yeah, as soon as we can, and I know we've got a lot of discussion on that, but, that's gonna be great to get this one done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. I appreciate all the work you guys do. All right, we are gonna do what we can before 5:30, and we will come back to this topic if needed. We are now on to our 27-28, 28-29 school calendar priorities. Welcome, Matthew Delaney, Chief Schools Officer.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Brown, Vice Chairwoman Weems, Dr. Robertson, members of the school board. As you recall, at the July school board retreat, we conducted a 3-part presentation on the school calendar. In the final portion of that presentation, members of the school board participate in a calendar simulation. And at the conclusion of that simulation, we asked the school board to develop priorities. It was requested that we provide each member of the board time to reflect and provide staff with their individual list of priorities in developing the future calendars. 7 members provided responses, and we will review each priority this afternoon. The presentation will conclude with a list of calendar parameters based on the priorities that were listed 4 or more times, as well as additional parameters that staff must consider when developing a calendar. These parameters will provide a framework for the community survey and the calendar development committee. School calendar policy was shared at the retreat, but I'd like to bring it up again. I'd like to draw your attention to the last line of the policy. The calendar shall be planned by the superintendent and staff in cooperation with patron organizations and approved by the school board. The calendar development process is a comprehensive process which will include a survey to the community and the creation of a calendar development committee that will compose a variety of stakeholders. The superintendent and staff will bring a calendar recommendation eventually to the school board for approval, and I'll go through that timeline later in the presentation. You've also seen this policy several times, and we discussed this at the school board retreat. Policy 6-13, school day and school hours, states that the policy states that the school year shall be at least 180 instructional days. This policy sets the initial parameter for developing a calendar. In the upcoming slides, you will see priority responses as provided by the 7 school board members who responded. School board members were asked to identify up to 8 priorities they would like the calendar committee to consider and to rank those priorities in order of importance. So, for example, priority 1 represents their highest priority. On this slide, you can see the list of priority 1 and priority 2. The number in parentheses represents the number of school board members that listed this as their priority. So in priority 1, 3 board members listed 180 to 182 instructional days. 1 member listed maximizing instructional days as a priority. 1 member listed the priority of an hourly calendar. 1 member listed community staff and input via survey, and 1 member listed a maximum of 6 days for in-service week. In priority 2, 2 board members listed 13 staff days. 1 member listed priority 2 as 180 instructional days. 1 member asked to designate 2 weather makeup days. 1 member asked to create and share makeup plan for inclement weather. And 1 member had a hybrid calendar for scheduling flexibility. And finally, 1 member had unencumbered staff days at the end of the first quarter and the first term. Listed as a third priority, 4 members would like the holiday the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. 1 member would like to prioritize 13 staff days. 1 member prioritized unencumbered work days at the end of each quarter for report cards. And 1 member would like to balance state requirements for instructional minutes with community needs. Listed as a fourth priority, 2 members would like to see a 2-week winter break. 1 listed the holiday the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. 1 would like to see holiday breaks coincide with other school divisions. 1 would like to prioritize staff days that are balanced with other holidays considered. And 1 member would like a maximum of 6 days for in-service week. Moving to priority 5, 2 members wanted to prioritize a maximum of 6 days for in-service week. 1 listed a 2-week winter break. 1 person would like a priority on teacher training days during the year that are dedicated to professional development. 1 member listed 2 staff days at the end of each term. And 1 prioritized some adjusted dismissal, but wanted to prefer to consider it for elementary. For priority 6, 2 members prioritized 2 staff days at the end of each quarter. 1 prioritized 13 staff days. 1 prioritized leaving holidays alone. 1 member prioritized 1 staff day first and third quarter, designated at all levels for parent conferences. And 1 person liked to prioritize a post-Labor Day start. For priority 7, 2 members would like 2 staff days at the end of the first term. 1 member would like to prioritize 2 staff days at the end of the first quarter. 1 member would like to consider half days for elementary and middle during graduation week. 1 member would like a maximum of 6 days for in-service week, and 1 would like a 2-week winter break. For priority 8, 4 members would like to limit adjusted dismissal days. 1 member prioritized staff and community input, and 1 member would like to maximize instructional days. So in reviewing the priorities, we are now developed a list of parameters. The parameters on the slide were listed by at least 4 school board members as our priority. In your packet, you do not see that top one. We found that as an error and have added it to the presentation. So the maximum of 6 days for in-service week was identified by 5 board members. 100 or 182 instructional day calendar by 5 members. Holiday the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving by 5 members. 13 staff days, a 2-week winter break, and limited adjusted dismissal days for school board members. By 4 school board members. Staff also have to consider other parameters, and I'll give you a couple examples here. That includes holidays to ensure that we're following policy 4-88, which outlines designated holidays. Things such as primary elections, which we will have in one of the calendar cycles at least, and the potential makeup days that need to be identified. Those are just a couple of examples. Please know we're going to use these parameters to develop a survey for the community and to inform the calendar development committee. In terms of next steps, we will develop a community survey to go out in September. We'll convene the calendar committee comprised of several stakeholder groups. The goal of this committee will to draft a calendar based on the parameters and the results of the calendar survey. We'll present the calendar recommendation at workshop in October, revise as needed for an informational session in November, and with the expectation of having an approved calendar at the end of November 2026. So I'd just like to remind the school board that we are still really in the initial phases of developing a calendar. As noted in the previous slide, there are several steps that need to be taken which will allow for a variety of feedback opportunities, which will then lead to potential several revisions to even the parameters that are listed on that slide. I'd really like to thank each of you for sending us the information so we can move forward in the calendar development process. And that was really the intent of this session, for you to give us some guidance to take to that group that then allows us to bring back to you guys things that inform questions through that area. I'd still be happy to answer any questions, but I hope that reinforced kind of the intent of what we were asking you to do. Thank you.
Ms. Rogers.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Mr. Delaney, for your presentation and for taking the time to get our feedback and to put it all together. I think instead of a question, I sort of have a comment. As we just heard from our staff, that retention is extremely important to us to keep our staff. This is an area that our staff have repeatedly told us that is important to them. And so I will continue to advocate for changing our our school board policy to be 180 days or 990 hours as needed. And to advocate for then just doing that 180 days. This is an area that we can actually make our staff happy without spending money. Listening to our staff is what we need to do for this calendar discussion, and I look forward to the survey that'll be being put out, and I hope that all of our staff that are listening, please respond to the survey. Please respond to the survey so that we know what you want, so that we can make that happen.
Thank you. I appreciate all of that being compiled. So there's things on that list, obviously, that I love, and there's things that I don't love, and that right there is calendar development. I've sat through it once before, and I will admit that the calendar discussion, surprisingly, is one of the more contentious topics that a school board will face and have, and it's a very long, drawn-out process as well, because we do get that community input, so I'm looking forward to the community input. I accept the results of what you have. And a couple of years ago, I commented on this, and there's a lot of people that have said that I have not commented, and I have if you go back. But when we talk about instructional time, very mixed feelings about, you know, the hours versus the days and the conversations surrounding it. And the reasons are because I recognize that our staff sometimes feels stressed out and could use those staff days because we have a contract for 200 days anyway, so those would be transitioned to staff days. But in Virginia Beach, 42% of our students are economically disadvantaged. 14% of our students have learning disabilities. 6% of our students are English language learners. And for me, the inner monologue and conversation that I have with myself that's very difficult to want to make the shift to hours is in my heart, deep down in my heart. I believe that the best opportunity for the most students and the students that need it the most is days. Now, I'm, open to some conversations and compromise surrounding, how we have those conversations and, what we do from a policy perspective. But I want to make sure that our students are succeeding, and I recognize the struggles and that, it's difficult. But I just wanted to make that comment for the community because, I've been told by a couple members of the community that I have not commented. It's not true. I commented on it 2 years ago. Same sentiment. So as we go forward in these conversations, my goal and my heart is in what's best for students, student outcomes, student learning, and trying our hardest to balance that. So with that, thank you for your work. I know it's not easy. I'm sure it's your favorite part of the season, right?
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
I've got one thing to add,
Yes.
Chair Brown. We will provide the board a copy of the survey before it goes out.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, Vice Chair Weems?
Will you provide it to us like in advance instead of like
Like the
that
day before?
morning,
Yeah.
and then you say it went out, here it is at 9 o'clock, and then it went out at 9:15.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank
We
you.
talked about that on Monday, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Miss Linetti, do we have another closed session? Okay, let's go. Carolyn, if you could read into closed.
I move that the school board recess into closed session in accordance with the exceptions to open meetings law set forth in Code of Virginia 2.2-3711, Part A, paragraphs 17829, is amended to deliberate on the following matters. 1, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body, and evaluation of performance of departments or schools of public institutions of higher education where such evaluation will necessarily involve discussion of the performance of specific individuals. Any teacher shall be permitted to be present during a closed meeting in which there is a discussion or consideration of a disciplinary matter that involves the teacher and some student, and the student involved in the matter is present, provided that the teacher makes a written request to be present to the presiding officer of the appropriate board. Nothing in this subdivision, however, shall be construed to authorize a closed meeting by a local governing body or an elected school board to discuss compensation matters that affect the membership of such body or body collectively. Consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meetings would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body. For the purposes of this subdivision, probable litigation means litigation that has been specifically threatened or on which the public body or its legal counsel has a reasonable basis to believe will be commenced by or against a known party. Nothing in this subdivision shall be construed to permit the closure of a meeting merely because an attorney representing the public body is in attendance or is consulted on a matter. 8, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. Nothing in this subdivision shall be construed to permit the closure of a meeting merely because an attorney representing the public body is in attendance or is consulted on a matter. 29, discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews of bidders or offerers, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, namely to discuss A, personnel matters, B, Princess Anne High School CIP project, discussion on RFQ and draft RFP terms, C, status of pending litigation or administrative cases, D, consultation with legal counsel regarding probable litigation and pending litigation matters.
Motion made by Vice Chair Weems, seconded by Ms. Rogers. Any discussion? Seeing none, I call for the vote to go into closed session.
So, Madam Chair, we have 8 ayes. The motion to pass to go into closed session.
Thank you. It's like 500 pages. It's long. It's my wheelhouse, though. We're good?
Whereas the school board of the city of Virginia Beach has convened a closed meeting in this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the school board of the city of Virginia Beach hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies. And only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
All right, motion's made by Ms. Dwyer, seconded by Mr. Callen. Any discussion? Seeing none, I call for the vote to certify closed session.
Ms. Felton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 8 ayes. The motion did pass for certification of closed session.
Thank you. We will recess and reconvene at 6 p.m. for our formal meeting.